Satanic, also known as Butterfly, currently has a 70% win rate as Anti-Mage in his last 10 games. He's currently ranked 2 and is owning pros like Yatoro Quinn on a daily basis. Anti-Mage is seeing a lot of playtime in high immortal pubs. Even though pros have recently started playing this hero, Satanic was spamming AM 2 months ago and is probably the one who brought him in the meta. In this video, I will show you guys how you can implement what he does and get MMR with Anti-Mage. The reason behind AIM's sudden increase in the pick rate is that he is a counter to the meta heroes such as Pugna, Spectre, Gyro, Lina, Muerta, and Wraith King. The current meta has a lot of backline kiting heroes, and Anti-Mage straight up counters their playstyle with his blink. In my opinion, he will soon become an S tier pick in the current meta, in pubs at the very least. For his starting items, Satanic has 2 variations. The most common one is Quelling Blade, Triple Branch, Magic Stick, and a set of tangos. He goes for this build when he knows that his lane matchup will be relying on their spells to deal damage rather than physical attacks. The 3 branches give him stats, while the charges from the Magic Stick allow him to sustain himself in the lane. He upgrades the stick to Magic Wand as soon as possible after getting runes. When he's against a matchup where there will be a lot of physical damage, he goes for the other variation, which is a Quelling Blade, Slippers, Circlet, Double Branch, and a set of tangos. He upgrades the Wraith Band components into a Wraith Band, which gives him armor. A good example to go for this build is against Slardar or Kunkka. Both these heroes will deal damage with their physical spells and right clicks. The Wraith Band allows him to trade well with the enemy. Anti-Mage wants to drain the mana of the enemy by right-clicking them. For this, it is crucial to have physical sustain because the enemy will also right-click you back. Another important thing that Satanic does is that against matchups where he knows there will be a lot of burst damage, for example against Skywrath Mage, Legion Commander, he buys a salve right after Bounty Rune so that he can sustain himself. Salve allows Anti-Mage to trade his HP for the enemy's mana, and since these burst spells are usually mana reliant, you can salve back up to full HP while the enemy will have no mana, then you can chill in the lane. Anti-Mage does not have any innate farming capability, which means that he cannot jungle before buying his Battle Fury. It is crucial to have the right item build so that you can sustain yourself in the lane. It is essential for Anti-Mage to stay in the lane for as long as possible to get a decent Battle Fury timing, and for that, these small things such as starting items and upgrades are extremely important. Satanic does not prioritize fighting for runes as Anti-Mage. The reason behind that is the fact that Anti-Mage does not offer any damage, lockdown, or catch at level 1. If Anti-Mage fights for runes, he would pretty much grief himself. As discussed before, you need to stay in the lane for as long as possible, and for that you need to make sure you don't lose all of your HP fighting for runes. Satanic chills near his own rune, and if he can get it, he gets it. Otherwise, he leaves it for the enemy. In the laning phase, Satanic's approach is defensive and aggressive depending upon the lane matchup. Anti-Mage's kill potential in the lane is heavily reliant on his position 5. His main focus in the lane is to get as many last hits as he can. Sounds pretty obvious, but the way I'm saying this is that he does not force kills, but rather waits for the perfect opportunity. In a matchup where he knows that he's stronger than the enemy, he casually right-clicks them whenever he feels like he can land an attack or 2 without losing a lot of his HP. A good example would be a Spirit Breaker offlane. That hero cannot do anything about it. Anti-Mage has a strong level 2 power spike when he gets Blink and Mana Break. In the lane, Satanic focuses on getting level 2 before the enemy does. This means that he does not hesitate in pushing the lane. By pushing the lane, his creeps stay alive. In contrast, the enemy creeps die faster, which means that he will be ahead in XP, which results in him getting level 2 before the enemy. And when that happens, it usually leads to a kill if the enemy is out of position. In lanes where the enemy does not have a way to disable you, like an AoE stun that you cannot reflect or no disable at all, it is very easy to play aggressively. The tricky part is when the enemy has ways to disable you if you blink on them. In such cases, Satanic waits for the enemy's disable spell to go on cooldown. In this example, you can see Loin using a stun, and after that, he tries trading with the Grim. Loin's stun is still on cooldown, and knowing this, Satanic jumps him and ends up getting a kill on him, combined with the Ink spell from the Grimstroke. In terms of his lane item build progression, he always completes his treads first rather than rushing Battle Fury. He decides between boots, Band of Skin, or gloves as his first component of treads right after his starting build based on his lane matchup. If his position 5 does not have a slow or a disable, he goes for boots first so he can close the gap between him and his opponent easily. On the contrary, if his position 5 has a slow or a disable, he goes for gloves of his so that he can deal the most damage in the duration of the slow or disable. The only time he goes for Band of Skin first is when he needs armor. Lane matchups where he's against Kunkka or Slardar is when he prefers getting this. The whole progression is starting item build, upgrade the first component which will be either Wand or Wraithband, and then proceed towards the Treads build up. After Treads, he builds up towards his Battle Fury. For his first component for Battle Fury, he always goes for Cornucopia. This part is very important as a lot of players prefer buying Claymore or Broadsword first because they are either lazy and can't send their courier to the secret shop, or they just get blinded by the damage attribute of these components. Anti-Mage needs Sustain. Cornucopia not only helps with that, but it also gives some damage. Please do not buy any other component of Battle Fury before Cornucopia. You will unknowingly ruin your own game. As mentioned before, Anti-Mage does not have an innate farming capability, so he has a hard time farming neutral camps, even with Cornucopia. Usually after it's minute 5 or 6, you won't be able to play much forward in the lane as the enemy has more levels, so you have to figure out a way to keep up with your farm without putting yourself in danger. A crucial thing Satanic does is he pushes the lane in and then pulls his small camp. The importance of this is that he uses his creep wave as a shield to farm the small camp and simultaneously brings the enemy wave back towards his tower. This is important to replicate if you wish to achieve a good Battle Fury timing. If your camp is blocked, you should buy your own sentry. There is a way to farm stacks and big camps without losing all of your HP before Battle Fury, but it has a catch. You have to be lucky enough to get Seeds of Serenity as your tier 1 neutral item. If you have that as an option, always get that. The base HP regen and the active helps you sustain and be able to farm side camps plus stacks easily. Every video takes a lot of effort, and I want to keep helping you guys by making quality content. If you are enjoying the video, please make sure to like and comment as it helps with the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe. Back to the guide. Since we are discussing Anti-Mage here, it is very common for people to find themselves playing from behind. The question that is probably roaming in your mind is how do you farm when you are losing your lane? If you're losing your lane and you have no chance of getting anything without dying, retreat to your jungle and let your tier 1 tower die. Once your tier 1 tower dies, the enemy waves will automatically push into you. Your job is to farm those waves near your tier 2 and farm the side camps along with that. This will not only get you good amounts of farm, but it will be quite close to the farm you'd get when you're in a normal lane. The key thing to remember here is to give up your tier 1 tower. If you don't do that, the waves aren't coming, my friend. In terms of joining early fights, Satanic is never the one who initiates a fight in the early phases of the game. Joining early fights has certain conditions. The main one is whether the enemy heroes have a high mana pool. If he sees an opportunity where the enemy have used their spells and are out of mana, he joins up and uses mana void to clean up. His default state is always farming and split pushing. Joining fights is just a bonus if there is ever an opportunity, and for that, you should be looking at the map a lot. Anti-Mage is known as a griefer hero because people think he just AFK farms the entire game. This is where you differentiate a bad Anti-Mage player from an excellent Anti-Mage player. The key difference between someone AFK farming and productively farming is how they play on the map. Anti-Mage is known well for split pushing, and anyone who can do this well usually has a great impact on the game. AFK farming means that you never push lanes in a way that makes the enemy chase you around the map. Productive farming means that you are constantly applying pressure on the entire map by pushing in lanes and forcing the enemy to react to you. In order to achieve this, you must have good map awareness and understanding of kill threats. Ask yourself, how does an Anti-Mage die? Anti-Mage dies if he cannot use his blink to escape, quite similar to how Void and Slardar can die. Now think about what makes Anti-Mage unable to use his blink. When you think about it, it comes down to silences, disables, and roots. Now in order to play the map to the limits, you need to understand what kind of heroes the enemy has. Let's say the enemy has a Legion Commander or a Puck. Both these heroes can stop you from using your blink until you get a BKB or Linkins. But as an Anti-Mage, it requires a lot of time to get these items. So how do we prolong the game? It's quite simple. You have to look at the map and avoid the hero that threatens you the most. In this case, if LC is not showing on the map, you don't show on the map as well. If she shows on one side of the map, you play on the opposite. You have to track that hero's movements and play accordingly. This thought process will help you play Anti-Mage to his limits. The more aggressive you play on the map of the enemy side, the longer the game goes, the more you benefit. In every game, you will be buying Manta as your second item after Battle Fury. After Manta, Satanic decides between Butterfly, Aghanims, Linkins, and Scotty. If he's against a lot of physical damage, for example heroes like Slardar, Templar Assassin, Naga Siren, Troll, he goes for Butterfly after Manta. Anti-Mage has his magical defense covered thanks to his counterspell, but is very fragile against physical damage. If he's against something he cannot react to, for example spells like Charge and Duel, he goes for Linkins after Manta. Anti-Mage loves to split push and constantly shove in waves, and for that he has to show in lanes. If he doesn't have Linkins against these spells, he will keep feeding. If he needs to sustain against stuff he cannot dispel or react to, like Axe Call, Magnus RP, or Enigma's Black Hole, he goes for Scotty after Manta. Anti-Mage needs a split second to escape bad situations, and if he has high HP, it increases the odds of him escaping, so Scotty is a good item to buy in such cases. With that being said, this does not mean that if you buy one, you can skip the other two. You can buy all of these items in the same game. Lincoln is not an every game item, but Butterfly and Scotty are usually bought every game. For example, let's say you are playing against Legion Commander and Templar. In this case, you need Lincolns first to show in lanes, and after that a Butterfly and then Scotty. In this case, the Lincolns is for the LC, Butterfly for the TA, and the Scotty is good against TA as well, as it completely ruins their capability to run from you or trade with you, aside from its defensive capabilities. Satanic opts for Aghanims as his third item after Manta, if he knows that he cannot hard commit in fights and has to bait out spells before jumping in. Other benefits of Axe is that it can cancel Lincolns and provide vision, which Anti-Mage really loves. For example, Axe can be used to not allow a certain hero to blink. For example, let's say Axe is waiting for you to show before he will show, but you will be constantly throwing in illusions which will keep the fight in your favor. In such cases, Axe can be really good. Some other examples are Magnus RP or Loin's spellcast, because you can counterspell on your Aghanim's illusion. With that being said, Axe goes in the same category as these other items. You can buy all of these items in the same games if they are necessary. Usually these items are enough to finish the game, but in the ultra late games, Satanic mostly opts for Abyssal Blade or MKB. MKB is a situational item, required when he's playing against evasion heroes like PA, Windranger. Abyssal is a crucial item after you have covered the weaknesses of the hero. Abyssal is a completely offensive item that you should buy when you know that I have all my weaknesses covered and now I just need to burst people down. Let's talk a bit about when to buy BKB on Anti-Mage, as in his games, he didn't get many chances to buy BKB. BKB is good against heroes like Puck. Anti-Mage's only solution to Coil is BKB, and you can even buy it right after Manta if it's necessary. The whole point is to be able to escape or be offensive, and BKB allows you to do that against things you cannot dispel otherwise. For his skill build, he maxes his Blink first, followed by Mana Break, and then Counterspell. In the laning phase, he prioritizes putting points in his Mana Break before Blink, but he only puts up to 2 or 3 points in Mana Break before maxing Blink. In the lane, he either has 3 points in his Mana Break at level 5, or at least 2 depending upon the matchup. He only takes Counterspell at level 3 if he's in a lane where he can counter something, for example Loin Stun or Shaman Shackle, otherwise he skips it till level 8. The basic idea is that you should have at least 2 points in Mana Break by level 4. Afterwards, if you feel like that is enough to drain the enemy, then you can stop leveling it up and max your Blink instead. The rest is self-explanatory. As for his talents, he always goes for the plus 9 strength at level 10 over the Mana Void radius. Anti-Mage is a squishy hero with bad strength gain. The plus 9 strength helps in escaping bad situations, so it's a no-brainer. At level 15, he prioritizes the -1 second Blink cooldown over the mana burn. He's constantly using Blink. With the lower cooldown, he can move around the map quicker, which means he will farm faster, he will go in and out of fights easier, so it's better. At level 20, he always goes for Blink cast range over the Mana Void multiplier. Blink cast range means that there is less potential to kite the Anti-Mage, and he can also jump in the backline easily. The Mana Void multiplier won't be used as much as the Blink would be, so it makes sense. At level 25, I've only seen him get the Mana Void cooldown talent, but I personally think both talents can be useful in certain situations. For example, if you are playing against the Faceless Void or Murta, they both do magical damage in the form of bashes and Mjolnir procs, so it is good against those heroes. The talents are self-explanatory. If you feel like the majority of the enemy's damage is magical, you should take the magic resistance talent. If that's not the case, then you can take the Mana Void talent. When it comes to team fighting, he focuses the squishier targets like supports or mid heroes that aren't beefy. As an anti-mage, it's crucial to dodge the beefy boys as they are hard to kill, and instead go on the targets that you can kill whilst kiting the beefy boys. Satanic does the same thing. He does not take trades that he knows he won't win. He uses the anti-mage blink to be evasive and find the squishier heroes that he can burst. Anti-mage's mana void is dependent on how much mana the enemy lacks, so jumping heroes with a small mana pool is bad. It's essential to jump targets with a big mana pool so you can deal a lot of AoE damage with mana void. The other factor is knowing what spells have been used and what haven't been used. So when do you pick this hero? When is it a good anti-mage game? You need to keep two things in mind. One is the amount of catch the enemy has, and the second is how many magical heroes do they have. If they have less amount of catch or something that you can dispel with Manta, it is usually a good idea to pick anti-mage. If the enemy has magical heroes like Lina, Pugna, their impact is significantly reduced against anti-mage, and the other factor is the mana void on these heroes does not allow them to play the game. The most basic idea of picking anti-mage is keeping these two things in mind: catch and magic. If you wish to significantly improve your gameplay on any role, I offer private coaching lessons which can help you reach higher ranks as they have for other students. If you're interested, limited slots will be opening for December, which can be found on my Discord linked in the description. Please make sure to subscribe and like the video for more high quality content like this. Other than that, I stream on Twitch, which can also be found in the description. Do let me know in the comments if you have any feedback. Otherwise, have a nice day and good luck with your games.